Hey everyone, welcome to the show. In this video we'll be looking into a new way to flatten the bottom of your cast iron pans using an additive method rather than to remove material. Now I should mention that this video is mainly intended for people with an induction type cooktop or with a glass cooktop with the coil underneath it. And that one in particular is the one that I have. So I have a real problem with a few of my cast iron pans in that the bottoms are not flat. Some of them tend to teeter a little bit, and some of them just do not make very good contact with the stovetop. Now, I realize that if you have a gas stovetop, that's really not relevant because the flame will just surround the pan. But in the case where you have glass, it is important to make pretty good contact with the stovetop. So the idea came to me when looking at the bottom of another pan, in this case it's this KitchenAid pan, and seeing what happens when the oil drips down, or there's oil on the burner itself, and that buildup that occurs around the perimeter. So that's what's happened on this one. So that is a carbon layer built up, or seasoning layer built up around the outside of this pan. And you'll see a lot of older pans that have a really thick buildup in the exact same way, and you may be tempted to remove that. So that is what I plan on adding to a pan with a warped bottom or a regular bottom, but in a controlled way instead. The first step here is to find out exactly how to out of level the bottoms are on your pans. And for that, you're going to need something flat, like a piece of granite tile, marble tile, piece of glass. You could even use a piece of MDF. Now, if you don't have any of those things, you could use your glass top on your stove if you needed to as well. So next, you'll need some sandpaper, and I'm recommending a little bit of fine sandpaper. This is 600 grit. This is 220. The finer the better. I think you really just need to see what's happening. You don't need to actually cut into anything. That's not the purpose of the sandpaper. So for demonstration purposes here, I'm just going to show you using some chalk what the goal is we're trying to achieve. So hopefully from that demonstration you get the idea of how bad this one is and why I'm doing this process. Hopefully this thing will come in handy for some of you as well. So I'm going to go ahead and do that with sandpaper. I'll be able to see it. You guys won't be able to see it as well, but you get the picture. It looks like a little happy face there. Now if your pan is so badly warped, put something a little bit with a little bit of weight in there and rub it back and forth. That'll help it to find its level. I have to be honest with you, I had no idea that this pan was this bad. It's terrible. So I've got a lot of work to do to fill in the rest of this area here, but that's why we're doing it. So from here on in, this is just a regular seasoning process. So what you do, drive off any residual moisture. You're gonna put the oven to a low temperature, which I've got to 220 Fahrenheit or 100 Celsius. Pop the pan into the oven for about 10 minutes or so. Next step, you're going to remove the pan from the oven and apply a coat of seasoning oil of your choice. I personally like using canola oil, and try not to apply too thick of a coat of oil because it will take longer to set in the oven. Depending on how irregular the surface is, you may need to repeat this process a few times until you get the results that you're looking for. The point here is that we're not going to get 100% contact, but you want to get a lot more contact than what you saw earlier. As an alternative to this method, you could simply re-season the entire pan, sand away a little bit, re-season again, and so on. That is definitely another option. This is the first time I've done this process. It is a test as well. So I'm definitely open to some criticism, and if you guys think you have a better method of doing it, by all means, let me know. So we'll be going back into the oven, this time at a higher temperature, 425 to 450, for about an hour. Okay, so you're going to go ahead and repeat that process a few times. The last time that I applied some oil, I found that it beat it up a little bit on the surface, so we'll see if that happens again. It is to some extent, so if that's happening to you, let's take a very light piece of sandpaper, very fine grit of sandpaper. Just lightly scuff that surface up. That should promote a little bit better adhesion. Last coat's been applied, everything's cool, it's ready to take out. Now before we get to the results, if you haven't already subscribed, please make sure you do that to support the channel and support upcoming videos as well. If you have ideas of problems or testing that you want to see in videos, make sure you leave a comment in the section below. I'm definitely open to that. Anything cast iron related or restoration related is perfectly fine. So this took a lot longer than I expected it to take. First issue was that when the oil was applied, it was applied very thick. When it goes into the oven and it's setting, it thins down quite a bit. So I had to apply a lot more layers to get to this point. It looks really good to me. We'll have to check to see what the final results look like. Now one other issue was, you'll have noticed in the video, there are some drip marks that came down here. Those also solidify, so you have to do a better job than I did. When you put oil onto a hot pan, it flows. The viscosity changes dramatically, so it flows out a lot easier. I think that was what was happening as well here. Automatically, it was thinning out and then helping to drip over the edges as well. So you'll see a small amount of extra buildup around the perimeter here that wasn't there before. This is just for weight. Now one thing I wish I had done is I wish I had measured the thickness of this before I started applying any extra coats, because I have no idea how much material I actually built up. It seems to me like it was a lot. It was a lot of work. Hopefully it paid off. I have a feeling that I'm not going to get as much contact as I was hoping for. Well, it's certainly better. It's probably around 2 to 2.5 times the amount of contact area. I was kind of hoping for a little bit more, to be honest with you. And you can see here how the lettering is almost completely filled in. So you can tell how much material has been built up. Well, not as successful as I was hoping. We did have a drastic improvement in the amount of contact area, so I'm moderately happy with it. Any guesses as to how many coats exactly went into this? If you have an idea of that and you have an explanation as to why, put it in the comment section below. I also want to hear from you guys about this coating, the seasoning itself. What is seasoning? What has it become? It was oil, now it's something else. And what is it most similar to? What other material is it most similar to? So, if you enjoyed the video, I hope you subscribe if you haven't already. And thanks for watching, everybody. Hope to see you on the next one. Take care.